the intention here is that you never run out of content ideas, even if you're short on time, because you don't want to have to work nonstop. You shouldn't have to. And B, it will coincide with what we already have inside the curriculum, that it will align fully with your offer messaging, everything that we've crafted in your $1 million offer masterclass. Okay. And let's dive in here. So when we come up with content, when we share it, regardless of the platform, you want to have this general rule of thumb in the back of your mind that we are not going to be promoting a direct offer or pushing a call to action that says DM me this keyword or book a call here or join my group every single day. That will not be the intention 365. Okay. There is a need to alternate, even if you're doing the evergreen model, which I highly advocate for with our HTC system, the leveraged organic that we teach you, both in DMs and content. And so there's going to be a need to alternate, right? So this here, general structure, 60% focus when you're putting out content, it's aligned with your core pillars, the top 3 or 4 components that are integral to your program. We come up with those with you. We go deep. In the event that you're not sure, you feel stuck or uncertain, obviously reach out to me or Melissa, and then we can go ahead and help you out. The related topics would be something that's adjacent to or, associated with that same type of pillar. So let's say that you are, in fact, maybe a yoga coach or a health coach. Then there are going to be aspects underneath one of your core pillars, which might have to do with movement, right? And being pain-free, or making sure nutrition is on point. And maybe you align with a very specific school of thought, and you would just utilize that as a related topic. And then this other component here, 20%, is personal, vulnerable, and transformative. So these need to be a very simple snapshot in time of your experience, your core values, and what it is that makes you unique, right? That's the differentiation. That's the component that helps your brand messaging you, in fact, stand out and apart. Okay, so let me come over here and talk about some keywords and phrases. Now, I have written out here it's not end all be all, like this is not all encompassing, but it is pretty much the majority of the types of phrases that I tend to hear most of the time, not just on sales calls, but also on like one-to-one coaching calls, or whenever you guys reach out and you're expressing some, frustration or something that is getting in your way, a roadblock of some kind, right? And so the reason why this is relevant is because I need to start first, since I'm the expert, I need to start first with understanding where my ideal client avatar and current client avatar are, in fact, in their journey, right? In this moment in time. And so I'm not going to read them all, but I'm just going to mention a couple here. So a couple components that make my avatar unique are that they're savvy. They're a slightly more sophisticated buyer. They've purchased courses and programs before, and they likely never got the full experience and or did not ROI for a variety of reasons. And so they kind of hold that within, right? Contemplating, am I the problem? Other people are getting results. What's wrong with me? Am I broken? And it can create this like negative loop and negative self-talk that in turn creates conditions for that person to continue to procrastinate, or they keep reinvesting in themselves with this specific hope that they will have a very specific outcome. When they do self-comparison, they don't achieve that same goal, then they get, again, stressed, overwhelmed, they feel burnt out, etc., and then have this negative feedback loop rather. and continue feeling inefficient. They lean on their perfectionist nature, they're introverted. So there are a lot of moving pieces that are happening beneath the surface for this kind of person. Also, they may have some doubts internally regarding, am I an expert? Who am I to charge more? Should I do low ticket? Maybe I should just do a challenge. Oh, let me sell a course instead, sell something for $27, or let me try this modified offer because nobody's buying, nobody can afford XYZ. And the list goes on, right? So nonetheless, I have selected very specifically off the top of my head, just simply from the calls I have had in the last 30 days, the things that clients have said and people that I have chatted with in DMs and sales calls. So let's say there's a possibility, let's say you haven't really had that many sales calls recently, or for whatever reason, you have not had leveraged DM conversations according to the Claire method that we teach in our program at Experts and Legends. Let's assume worst case scenario, that's you. So you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of coming up dry. I don't really know what to write here because I don't know what the keywords and phrases are. I don't know what that looks like. So then my recommendation to you would be either A, and I do have this video up on YouTube as well, in the event that you are watching this and you're not a coaching client, that's totally fine. Go ahead and just go check out the video on YouTube under my account. You just type Aiden Frazier, it's in there, and you'll see me. So the video, it's about how to get testimonials and results, and social proof, even if you don't have any experience, you don't have an audience. So that's ultimately the video that I would recommend. If you're not a coaching client, if you are in fact a coaching client, then let me and Melissa know, and we can go ahead and help you. We'll go, get hands-on, get in the trenches with you, just to make sure that you feel super clear, not just only regarding your offer and the messaging, but also that you feel confident in the content that you're putting together, so it aligns with the theme plates that we have inside of the curriculum. And obviously I'm happy to audit that and give you feedback, assuming you're a client. If you're not, then I wouldn't be able to do that for you. But you can definitely glean what's possible from my YouTube. That's not a problem. So we would come into this component here, related core pillars. Okay. Now there are some things that are going to set your program apart, whatever that is. So we have several clients in the program of Experts and Legends who are in fact life coaches, health coaches. One of them are in fact like a personal trainer or a fitness expert, and this person leans very heavily on macros, food intake, stress, workflow optimization, some aspects of peak productivity, things like that. So these would be it, whatever your situation is, right? The things that are integral to your program and your clients getting results, like the way that you deliver success to that individual, you would ultimately want to pick at least 3 to 5 things that set you apart, or that are necessary pieces of your program to help your client go from A to Z. Okay. So go from their agitated state to their desired state. So for us, in Experts and Legends, that would be our program, the high ticket coaching foundations. So that's the HTC system that we utilize on offer and messaging. So MDM is the $1 million masterclass. We also do emphasize very heavily leveraged organic, so that way you're not spending all day in the DMs, and you ultimately are closing more offers and deals. You understand not only the knowledge or the skill gap that is there, in order to take your prospect from not aware to fully aware, and so we like to coin this the Claire method. But in addition, you also would end up getting one-to-one support inside of our program. That sets our program apart, because the one-to-one support is with me, the founder, and also our other coach. and we do have weekly office hours. So there's accountability, there's intensity in order to execute and ensure that our clients end up getting an ROI. We do provide guarantees, but those are only for people who pay in full. And so the people that we extend an invitation to come into the program, they know that. And that makes us also stand out because we are not one of those. I'm really big on this as like sidebar comment. I'm very particular about guarantees. So my preference is that I'm not going to market it as heavily because the people who come into your program, usually because of a guarantee, are not always the most ideal or top tier level 1 client that you would potentially want to work with. Now, if you're in fact a beginner, then sometimes you just accept what it is that is available to you in order to gain experience and knowledge. But as you have a natural progression, you're going to want to be very picky or particular as well regarding whatever your warranty or guarantees are, if you have any at all. And then also another thing that makes our program very, very unique is that we don't provide content like copy paste approach for you to create content. We have very specific theme plates in order for an expert or a coach, whether you're at 1 to 5K or even somewhere between 15 to 50K, usually still offer messaging haven't been fully dialed in. And that's just because those people are not always aware of how to structure their content in a way that is going to move the needle for what is leveraged. So that would be middle of funnel to bottom of funnel. The people who are already in your ecosystem, they're most likely to convert those individuals. And so these theme plates are built, they're stacked and it's intentional. So we have an authority building component, and that's its own content calendar. Then on top of the authority building component, there is the general content, which it's designed to build value, social proof, demonstrate the expertise. The demonstration component is so essential, especially in today's, economic climate. And so these theme plates, having built on top of one another, now that you have those foundations and you're clear on the reason behind why you have to structure your content a very specific way in order to motivate and make more aware your ideal prospect and the people who are becoming part of your audience. All of that comes ultimately as a pre-frame to do the heavy lifting, and then a promotion cycle that is in fact evergreen is what comes last. So all of that is built together within this plug and play content theme plates. And it is in fact one of the most robust aspects of the offer messaging. So this connected with the leveraged organic, connected with the offer and messaging to get that dialed in through the $1 Million Offer Masterclass. Because after having coached well over 500 different clients, I mean, I think the number at this point, like if I remember correctly, it's closer to like 740 something. But I just, for the sake of not having to be so specific, I just usually say over 500 clients. But that's what I have found is that typically offer messaging, content, not being clear on your content pillars, they all are interconnected. And so if you're lacking the ability and foundations of articulating what it is that your offer does, how it helps people, what's in it for them, and you can't do that in a very structured way that makes sense to segment your audience, whether you're doing paid or organic, then you're just definitely going to struggle. So that's why we have it designed this way. And then the 7-figure group formula, which that's not brand new, but it is in fact a piece of our program, and it is established on top of the common known community funnel. So when we zoom out here and we think about the 60% core pillars, related topics, then from there, 20% offer plus call to action, what that would look like is 60% of content needs to be related in some way, shape, or form to these core pillars And depending on if we're in an evergreen promotion cycle or not, that would impact or influence if we have a call to action. And if so, how is that call to action framed? Are we doing storytelling and then providing the solution because it'll align and resonate for people? It just really kind of depends. So that's a little bit nuanced. But 60% of the time, we would be talking about offer, messaging, making sure it's clear, motivating the people who are already in your ecosystem to be more aware and ready to buy, right? And trust you, find that you're credible because you've demonstrated value in your expertise. Or also, inside of our core pillars, we talk about DMs, okay? And that would be the Claire method. And so obviously that's inside of my community funnel. I talk about it on YouTube. I talk about it on my own content on IG and Facebook. And then, of course, the one-to-one. So when I zoom out, 20% of the time for personal, vulnerable, and transformative, or 20% of the time talking about offer, I would literally extrapolate what I know to be true based on previous conversations I've had with clients and or people who are on the fence contemplating investing themselves, but they're not fully sure, or they don't trust themselves, or they don't trust the process or something, right? So then I would take one or many of these phrases that would connect with a very specific theme aligned with a theme plate of the content, depending on the time frame, if I'm in an evergreen promo cycle or not. And then I would link it back to a lived experience I have had, because me doing that demonstrates vulnerability. Here's what I went through and here's what I have accomplished, or here's how I'm no longer struggling with that. So it validates the fact that I am an authority figure. I know what I'm doing. And then to take it one step further, for the more sophisticated avatar that I do in fact have, it links back to my core values, right? So how my personal brand, the way I represent myself, the way I articulate my thoughts and ideas, and my mission ultimately, like my whole why, what that looks like, right? So as an example, if let's say I took this third bullet, no ROI, what did I pay for? The other program didn't help me. Well, I've gone through a shit ton of courses myself before I've had any form of success, and also before I got hired in another program previously to do their delivery for them, the entire build out infrastructure, all of it from A to Z, and service over 120 clients. I think the number was closer to like 150 or 160. I can't quite remember, but I could talk about either my experience of when I was coaching XYZ number of clients. Here's what I would usually see was the main difference between the people who would ROI and those who would not. And here's how I solved that, or here is my thoughts on the matter, right? So I could frame it that way, or I could simply talk about, I've invested in myself multiple times. And even though I've invested in myself multiple times, not every single one of those courses or programs or scripts or templates that I purchased made me an ROI. Some of them were just a waste of time. And that was a lesson learned all by itself. Hey, I'm never going to buy from this person again. Because obviously it didn't work out. It didn't work for me in that moment based on the phase or season that I was in. But here is what I would encourage: if you're a person who's contemplating investing into yourself, do it, move forward. Just the faster that you learn, the faster that you're willing to break things, the more rapidly you will achieve success, because blank, blank, blank. So that's what that looks like. Okay. So now regarding the offer, just so that this makes sense, when you're doing a call to action of some kind and you're talking about, let's say, one of these bullets here, the thing you have to keep in mind is, how does whatever that piece of content is that I'm creating and I'm sharing, how does it fix, eliminate, or reduce X, right? So if I'm creating a post where the theme is to address that bullet up there, just to be have continuity here, if I'm trying to address the fact that someone I can potentially help is on the fence, they have a lack of belief potentially in themselves, and also the propensity of investing in themselves or any version of a high ticket coaching program in order to help them arrive to their destination, because they are like, I didn't get an ROI before, I got burned. And also the other program was not what I expected. So because they overpromised and underdelivered, I don't think so. Right. So there's lack of trust, credibility, lack of belief. How does Experts and Legends, so that's the name of my business, fix, eliminate, or reduce this person's fear of having no ROI? I could talk about guarantees. So if you have guarantees, that's something you could potentially lean on. Again, not my preference. It's not my favorite thing, but I could choose to do that, right? Or I could also go ahead and choose to talk about a previous client who maybe they didn't have, right out of the gate, a bunny start trajectory to success, but they kept doing the work. They took the feedback that I provided and they ended up not only making an ROI, but they still are working with me, or they ended up achieving their goal, but within a very specific time frame that just extended a little bit beyond the deadline that they wanted for themselves, right? So it's just a matter of managing expectations, but them knowing I didn't disappear. I didn't go anywhere. I was still available because they had access to me, right? And so so this is how I would frame it in the end of the content. If you're a person who's also looking for a result like, and then you can name the client or you can connect it back to the parallel of the situation, then DM me and then keyword, or comment below or DM me. That would be an example of you connecting the dots, again, using storytelling, connecting it back to your core pillars and making it so that it is about your core values, your lived experience, and the pillars that are integral to your program to helping your clients achieve results. Now, there's just a little bonus section here regarding the personal aspect of things. Okay, when you're going to create content that is strictly designed to be, let's say, a viral transformation post or some sort of milestone / value post, like, oh, I can't believe, I got my 2 comma club award, and here's what I would tell old me if, I could start all over, because XYZ thing is what I went through and I'm glad I'm over it, but hopefully this gives you value. And then step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something. So that would be, excuse me, an example of something that's a little bit more personal. You would end up being able to address one core answer per piece of content. Okay. So the question is, how did you learn this? So whatever your skill is, let's say that you're a closer, you're a nutrition coach, you're a life coach, whatever it is. How did you come to know this skill? Okay. And that would be one whole piece of content because you are creating a snapshot in time. And it's up to you if you want to give value or not. But usually my recommendation for these types of posts that are more storytelling based or vulnerable, that you wouldn't necessarily utilize a direct call to action like, hey, this thing happened and then DM me XYZ. I just wouldn't advocate for that because it's a little bit confusing. Usually a vulnerability style post or something that is transformative or personal to you when you're storytelling, typically those types of pieces of content are designed to reinforce credibility, believability, and the know, like, and trust factor. So why do you do this? You would end up addressing your why. Maybe you were homeless before, maybe you had to live in your car, maybe your ex didn't believe in you and then you left them and you ended up getting, I don't know, you became $1 million speaker, stuff like that, for example. Or maybe not $1 million, but you just ended up achieving your dreams because you got out of your own way and you want to help other people get out of their own way. Or maybe you were obese and no, you're no longer that situation. What's your goal, aspiration for those who you serve? What that would look like is, again, some aspect of storytelling. You could talk about a client situation. You could talk about a family member. You could talk about your own personal lived experience and how you want to help change lives and what that looks like. And then this next component here or recommendation is, how has your life, relationships, or health or business or journey has experienced a change? How has that happened? Because you follow this principle, this method. Okay. So in other words, how is your life, your relationships, your physical health, your mental wellness, your business, or something in your journey been influenced or changed because you drank your own Kool-Aid, because you adhered to the same thing that you are going to tell your clients to do? Okay. And that's super important because that is all about congruency, right? And transparency. This question here would also potentially be its own piece of content. So what clients you've helped before have changed your life? Maybe you've met your clients in person. Maybe a client flew out to meet you. Maybe you went to a client's house and you slept on their couch. I don't know. That would be a little weird, but I wouldn't do that. But I'm just simply saying you can absolutely take whatever it is that you've gone through, what you've done, what you've seen, who you've met, even if it was an Uber driver and you inspired them some way, shape, or form. You can share how you met them or what the relationship did for you, right? How that was insightful for you. Now, another piece of content that I have found personally that has helped me a lot in order to build likability and trust and all of that, and have had people reach out to me personally, especially in video forms. So if you're doing reels or something like that, when you've had challenges, right, you can consider when you've had challenges in your life or setbacks of some kind, how did your method, whatever it is that you teach, your secret or your style, how has it played a role in solving that problem? So this is a little bit nuanced, and to break it down, to make it simple for you, you wouldn't want to talk about your whole method. So let's pretend that your program, your life coach and your program has like 5 steps. You wouldn't talk about all 5 steps ideally, because that might get overwhelming. That's a lot of information in one piece of content. But maybe there's like 1 or 2 main aspects of your program or your model that you use, and then you could talk about how those 2 are connected and helped you, and how that would potentially look for another person. And then, of course, if that's the scenario, then it would be great for you to consider as well sharing a image of the old you and then an image of the new you, so that there's some form of contrast to demonstrate the challenge that you went through before in that season of your life. What did that look like? And then what do you look like now? And you're joyful, or what's your situation, or what does it look like to be you, to be in your shoes? And so the content, the copy, and the messaging and everything you've written, and the information you're framing to reinforce your expertise and authority and demonstrate the value and your own personal transformation, it will be visually represented as well by those images or those assets that you've provided in that piece of